They run a tight ship here at the ICA. Don't mess around here.
I had a question that has nothing to do with what we just watched, but since you
All
brought
right.
it up, what do you have against things that are cute?
I just don't like cute. I like beautiful and handsome, but I'm not a big cute man.
Okay.
Okay. No.
All right. That's fair.
We talking earlier today. Yeah.
So one of the things that I was thinking about in trying to think about what we talk about, and I'm not sure, some of you probably know, but you might not know the exact number, which I didn't also, is kind of the sheer, like the breadth of your work. And so there's 163 films.
Yeah.
Why?
For spite. No, I don't know. I got nothing else to do, but this is what I do, I guess. I'm like art. So you just got to make some art, but I come from like a photo background. My degrees are in fine art photography. So in photography, you got to make like a body of work, it's a history of photo, like the Roy de Cavra, this week, was it Flyboy? Was it the book, the Roy de Cavra book? Yeah.
Thank you.
And then like the Americans. Stuff, by Robert Frank. So the whole idea of making a body of work, so I have that with film. I just have to make, and then this is a representation of several bodies of film work, whatever, so to speak, So that's, so I make like 12, 13 films a year because I want to get to a formal understanding of what I'm doing, so to speak, yeah. So, yeah.
So when you make those, are you making them to be, like, is that year a body, or do you let the subject kind of lead you into how they coalesce together or not?
Nah, I just do the whole, just me.
Okay.
No. I'm just like, everybody's, and everything is like kind of objects and elements. And although they're human beings, breathing things, but there's a lot of manipulation of what's going on, so to speak. So it's nothing. There's nothing by chance tonight, I guess, whatever, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Well, I was more so asking, are you making the work to be like in trilogies, or are they all speaking to each other, or each of them individual works?
I think individually, yeah, like individually, like they can stand up on their own, like individually, yeah. But that's just for me to kind of understand what I'm doing, so to speak. Yeah.
So something that occurred to me in watching this group, and I mean, I haven't seen all 163, but I've seen.
But you've seen these before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But something that occurs to me with these tonight that I hadn't thought about before was that you don't seem to be looking for anything. Like, they seem really sure of themselves. And I'm also wondering, with the volume that you're producing, it also seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like you're, sometimes people can't make work or can't allow themselves to produce because of their own ego, like, gets in the way, and they get caught up in, is this going to be good or whatever, and it seems like you're...
Oh, I get caught up in that.
You do?
No, I don't. No, I don't know. No, I just like, you just kind of know it, I guess, just by putting elements together. I mean, it's like painting. I mean, there's a lot of films that don't make it out, so to speak, but things that, like, I feel confident in it. But also, too, it's the subject matter, because I make work for the people. No, not for the people, for the people, but for the subject matter, so to speak. So I have to finish it for respect to them, so to speak. But sometimes you don't see, because I have like some scripted films that I won't show. I'm just horrible at scripted films because I'm under-resourced, I think, when I make them. And just so much goes into them, flying in people, flying in actors, getting people there and stuff. So just I do more kind of scripted stuff. They work out okay, but I don't really like them as much because my approach is I'm trying to finish the thing instead of trying to work on the thing. Mm-hmm. And then that's two different. And then so when I'm trying to finish the thing, they're usually undershot or just trying to get people out of there, or like work 10 hours or whatever many hours like that. But when I make my own thing, just like I'm trying to work on them, I'm trying to develop them, so to speak. So I have a lot of like scripted films. I just like, why do I keep doing this? I go to Florence for 10 days and it never works out. But I do it all the time, like it's just a nightmare, so to speak. But I just like to kind of work on them with the people, so to speak. So in respect to the subject matter, I think, yeah.
Have you tried like directing something someone else writes?
Yeah, I've made films on people's poetry before, yeah. So I've done that, yeah. I have a whole early body work of people's poems and stuff. And I have a co-writer, Talia Delaney. She was up in Boston and stuff. So she's wrote and says, she's a playwright, and we've written feature-length scripts together. And then so I've made films out of a few of her plays, so to speak, yeah.
Cool. How are you able to, there's sort of a double question, to get such intimacy with your subjects? And then how are you, approaching them and kind of like getting permission?
Well, some of them I'm related to, I think. I know in these. No, actually, there's no kinfolks in these. Wow. No, there's a couple of kinfolks. No, there isn't. Yeah, but that's like people I stayed with. Something like that. Yeah, eating their food and stuff. No, but in the film upstairs, my daughter's in it and my grandson's in it. Yeah, so they're in those films. But no, I think there's a couple of kind of methodologies to approach like, ethnographic kind of things and stuff. And now people, they like to kind of live with people for like a year and then film. And I'm like, I introduced myself for like 18 seconds. It's like, I'm making film. I want to make some art. I think what you do is beautiful. Can I film this? And stuff like that. And so that's what so I think once the kind of framing becomes because I'm trying to be this kind of equal, although I'm making this film and stuff. But I think people at the water department, I think what they do, I like the fact that they're intellectualizing what they're doing, and so I want to like portray that and stuff. And they give me permission and stuff, and I just met those guys. Like I think that day, we were filming. I think it was like a 3-day shoot, and and then so I'm just and then so I think. And then I think just by kind of talking to them and just being like, I don't know, just like, I'm just saying, like I always say, I'm here to make art. Like, I'm not here to like, although I befriend people, stuff like that, but I'm not, I'm just here to make art. And then they kind of understand that. Either they down with it and stuff like that. And then I even explain it like, this may be cut with other things. Mm-hmm. This may be edited with other things. There may be a voiceover on top of this. There may be music, something like that. So I just explain the whole process to them, so to speak. And then while I'm doing that, they're explaining their whole process to me, so to speak, yeah. Especially, I think the only film like that I think is the water department, I think, yeah. Because I knew some of that language, but not a lot of it, whatever. Yeah, the water department. But I don't know anything about gospel singing. I just literally, my colleague is writing a book about gospel, Claudrina Harold, Sophie's old colleague. And then we make films together. The last film is one of our series of Black Fire films. And then so I've been into, just because of her, influenced me about gospel singing. I've been putting gospel music in a lot of things, or the artistry of singing and gospel music. So, and then also too, I think because it looks into minute because I think what everybody's doing up there is art making in a weird way, and then so then I approach it as art making, so I understand it as art making, so to speak. Yeah.
Cool. We talked a little bit. Outside, also about having family from the South, Mississippi specifically,
totally, yeah.
Who migrated north. And
I
think when Meg was naming the show and talking about these different stages of it, I think when we hear the words like quotidian and past, we think about it, like Black people, we think about a Southern picture. And I was just curious how your family history in the South and you're spending time there factors into some of the subjects that you return to.
Oh yeah, totally. Like a lot of even before I was doing film, like my sculptures and photos and stuff was all about the migration from the South to the North. I think Louis Messiah picked me for that program, but because of the history of the kind of migration. But I don't treat the South as a point of history. I view it like as a point in the present, so to speak, yeah. And then so I like, and then for me, I like how the kind of Black diaspora, like how they move. And even when I'm looking through the viewfinder, I'm looking at maybe the water department, like how they got here. So I think the camera for me lingers on them, and even the guys in the boat. it was like there's a backstory. Like the more I'm looking through the viewfinder, the more I'm making my own backstory. So I hope the viewer makes their own like backstory. And most of the time, my backstory, because I'm from Ohio, born and raised, that I'm thinking that these people may came from the South. When did they get up here, or when did they get here and stuff. And then so that's part of, and then plus, like I think that's part of the framing and stuff, because I'm like waiting for the backstory to develop for me, so to speak. And then most of the filmmaking is made during the filming. Of course, I'm cutting the thing because all films are made during editing. But for me, it's when I'm looking through the viewfinder, because I'm like thinking about that backstory, whatever, so to speak. Yeah. And then that backstory, and then it's not really kind of the South as a point of the past, but a point of the present, so to speak. Are there any Southern films on here? No, I think this is mostly Ohio.
Yeah.
Some Virginia. Yeah, Ohio and Virginia.
Virginia's the South.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's home. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true. Absolutely true. Actually, South Philadelphia is the South. Actually, North Philly. But people.
It was interesting with the water department film,
yeah.
seeing it at this scale. I hadn't thought about it watching it, on my laptop. But those stakes that they had in the ground, and when they were listening into them, I kept thinking about them being like some kind of African object or something. Like I kept having this navigational tool.
Like that's what I think when I made a film years ago called The Golden Age of Fish, and I filmed guys doing that. And then I wanted to make a series of film about what was underneath Cleveland. Something you couldn't see. And then at one point, FE26 and Sound Act were supposed to be the same film at one point, because I shot them, I think, the same time, I think. And but then I made them two separate films. But I think when I responded to them, I responded to things as art objects. Like that's real sculptural. And then I made an aquaphone, and I made a rod too as well. And then I made the tool. So I still do sculptural objects. So I made the tools to extract the manhole covers, and then I made a manhole cover. So just in case, I didn't know what were going to happen when we got up there. Yeah. Yeah, but one time, we were in I don't know. Well, most of those films are all shot on the east side of Cleveland, which I guess is probably similar to North Philly, where it's like 99% black, I guess, so to speak. And then I remember EC, which is East Cleveland. I don't know if anybody been hearing the Serial podcast, season 3. It's all about, I was freaked out because I knew everybody and everything in it, because that was like EC. And then East Cleveland, then there's mostly black cops, which some of them are nice, some of them are corrupt. But it was funny, we were filming outside, and then this black cop came screaming at us like, man, you ain't allowed to have those tools. And then they were shooting like Captain Marvel or some Avengers shit downtown or something like that. He said, well, y'all what? That superhero? And the guy was like, no, man, we making stuff. It was art. And then so he made a serious U-turn. And then there was a lot of these people in this African-American bar that was behind that stuff. So they started running. And we and my man Khalil, we stood there. And then most people would run, but it was funny because then I think I'm in a privileged position, I guess, because everybody else was all freaked out because we kind of talked them down. But I think, it was a kind of a weird moment where they were like in fear of this kind of thing, and somehow maybe because I wasn't from there again. I lived there, and my daughter lives there now and stuff. But I was just like so busy making art, like, man, don't bother me making art. I think as opposed to like him getting mad, getting real violent or something like that. But I think he wanted to at some point, but I don't know. I think because this is a massive crowd, but it was kind of weird, that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know how I got on that, but
that's okay.
no, I got on that. Yeah. Oh no, we're making the objects. Yeah. So he said that these tools were illegal, but they weren't, whatever, so to speak. Yeah. So he was like kind of harassing us, whatever.
I had a question for you about how I'm assuming, or was your family working class?
Yeah.
Were they working
dad was a mechanic, mom was a bank.
Yeah. How did you get to making art?
I don't know. Shoot. I wanted to go to college. I figured I wanted to be a botanist, but I like shit growing. I like making it grow, whatever. And then I just thought science was too hard. I wasn't a very good high school student. I barely was eligible to play sports. I think I remember I played American football, but baseball, but just when you're a senior in high school, you kind of check out and shit. I already got into college, and and I remember the athletic director said we were ineligible to play baseball or something. You know, just like grades were so bad, you know. And then so I just I didn't know anything about school. I just wanted to play sports and stuff. And then so, but I knew I wanted to like get away from home and go to college and stuff. And then so I just had a camera. I had a still camera, and then there's these art classes. I just started taking it. You know, I don't know. I just wanted to. And then so I just got good at it, I guess. I didn't, you know.
Was anyone else an artist that in your family?
No, there's like musicians and stuff, but no professional. No, we're all like math. And there's a history of school teaching too, since the 19th century. But mostly math and accountants and engineers, and because we're gamblers, we like to gamble and stuff. Like I remember it's funny, like being in like first grade or second grade doing math, and the teacher thought I was cheating because I was like so quick. I was like, no, because people will steal from you. You know, you had to like count your money. You know, like kind of thing. And I was like, well, I thought everybody played poker at 4 or something like that, count cards and shit at like 7 or something like that. But I realized that was a kind of a family, or maybe a region. I don't know if you're a family thing, whatever. So I'm always like figuring out the odds and shit for things, so like that. Yeah. So, but that's how I kind of got into art, I guess. Well, was through that web, and then I just started, and then started getting good grades in college and stuff like that. So I guess it kind of came from there. You know.
Is there, you working in film and also working in video, do you prefer one over the other, or, you know? Yeah,
it's mostly I'm making films like a painter now, or so to speak. So it depends on the apparatus, I think. Mostly now it's all film. Now I'm a nerd out. I'm making I use like a 12 to 120 Angelou lens. I remember when I brought Arthur Jaffa and Khalil Joseph to University of Virginia one time, we were just like talking about lenses and what they do for like an hour or something like that. So then I started using all these telephoto lenses and stuff. At first I was using all these wide angle lenses and stuff because it's just like sound that and FE26. I like the performance that happened in front of me. But now I'm like flattening the space a little bit with the telephoto lens. So I have a whole body of work where I'm looking at the sky. There's like a lot of sun and moon film. So if I go like I think if I go to full clip telephoto, I'm using a telescope. You know, you can't get no more closer than that than the moon just using the fucking telescope. So I like to kind of you see these things as apparatus and what material. For me, a lens and maybe some kind of film stock or HD camera, it's like trying to use like a number 7 Sable brush, like it has these effects, so to speak. So now I use like non-sync cameras, so I can have sound be this other entity. So using Arri, which is not a crystal sync camera. So, and then now I'm like hand cranking Bolexes, so to speak. So then they become these kind of other ways of making paintings and films, so to speak. So it depends on what I'm working on, and depends on how I approach the subject matter. So I want to shoot on this Air Force base in Mississippi, but I don't really know what I'm going to shoot it on until I get there, and so to speak. Yeah.
I was asking Meg if she had heard, and I hadn't, if you've done anything with an iPhone. It just seemed like it would make sense to you.
I like an iris. There's no iris. Although I have an ex-student who's supposed to be making me an app. So I'm trying to be a thousandaire. I'm trying to be a millionaire. I just want to be a thousandaire. So I want to just get my daughter to do college. So we're trying to make the iPhone so you can. I think the new iPhone has some kind of weird iris, so you can get depth of field, so to speak. But I just need I just can't I don't know. It's just like I like blur. I like blur. So I think the reason why I never like that, it doesn't feel like maybe I would have I. I get sound with it sometimes. I'm trying to think. What are you guys laughing at me? I'm just trying to.
We couldn't find one, but it just seemed like you would for the immediacy.
Yeah, it would be. It's a little bit too easy, I think. Yeah. Well, I like the fact. I think sometimes with the camera there, I like when people. I don't like reality, and I think when people are so used to cameras, so I like the kind of manufactured, and I think once you have this other apparatus there. I can tell people how I want them to stand and stuff like that. So so to speak, yeah. So everything in these films is so manufactured. It's I was like, I got to get more casual, but it's hard for me. And even those football players in Union, I was like, no, I want this, kind of thing. And then they were supposed to do this kind of drill, but they couldn't do it. So my old ass was getting on the ground showing them how to do it, and it's just like, what the fuck I'm doing this for? And and then so I ended up cutting, and then I couldn't get them to do it. I was like, I'm just shooting all this footage, but then I ended up trying to use this footage of when there's two guys together. So the whole idea of just kind of getting together. So I ended up finding form in that. Yeah. But I was thinking about something else, whatever. Yeah, but they couldn't do it.
Those scenes were really beautiful to me, and I kept thinking of this term, and I don't know if anyone's used it for you before, but like kind of an observational fiction.
Yeah,
it was redone.
But they usually say observational film, but I like you saying observational fiction because it's all made up. Yeah. It's like nothing. And even the doctor appointment in ears, nose, and throat, like he was the only black ears, nose, throat guy in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And then so I wanted, because I remember I was filming my daughter getting an eye test, so it was almost like going to court and stuff like that. So I wanted that to be just part of this film, and then ended up finding something wrong with her voice, and then her voice was part of the testimony, so to speak. So we just kind of went from there. So that was kind of an accident. But just for him, like I waited for him to be done with work so he can give her this examination, which was, but then he found something wrong with her, or whatever, so to speak. Yeah. You got 5 minutes?
I have so many questions. That was so fast. Well, it's also sort of related to that. I was thinking about with this whole observational fiction thing that, you've been making work for longer than obviously we've had YouTube and Instagram stories and things like that. But my nephew watches, those weird videos where kids are unwrapping their gifts,
No,
and
what's that about?
I don't know. I'm very scared.
What are the gifts?
They're opening up gifts. It's like look at Tommy
like
open
gift
his
porn.
Yeah.
Gift porn.
Yeah, or watch Tommy go play. I mean, they're like weird videos, and he doesn't have attention span to watch scripted things, but he'll watch these sort of mundane videos for hours. And I was just curious if you had been thinking about making work for that platform because
I did.
it is
I made Super 8 films when YouTube first started. I made these films about high blood pressure and shit. I don't know why. I'll think about it later. I can't remember why, but I just wanted to. So I put those things on YouTube, by the way.
I'll show them to my nephew. I'll see.
Yeah. Like, what? Guy's cutting coupons.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he may like that.
He might.
So maybe I was ahead of the time, whatever. So I was like coupon cutting. I thought that was riveting, whatever, so to speak. Yeah. People like to make those savings. Yeah.
I guess my last thing, I'll just think about how has your voice changed? Actually, a big question. How has it changed over the years with all this practice?
It's always, my goal is to, I'm like, there's a bigger goal with this stuff, and it's mostly, I'm trying to like use representational devices to get to massive abstraction. I'm trying to like strip it all down formally, so to speak. And there's some gestures in there, like Old Cat was the first time I did a long take, and so now that's kind of formed in a weird way. And then when I was doing found footage, I was reenacting footage. That's what emergency needs. So I was trying to strip, and that film was basically trying to strip away content. But I think if you would analyzes the performance of the Mayor Carl Stokes and his actress, well, then you would pay attention to the performance and the formal attempt to strip away content. But I know it wouldn't, but I'd like it as a formal kind of gesture. And so all these things, and then the whole idea of like having that kind of music, the gospel and the soul, back to gospel. I'm trying to like strip away some kind of content to get to this. Strip away this kind of representation to get to strict abstraction. So abstraction is like the goal, to have like a 10-hour blank screen or something like that, kind of John Cage or some shit like, even like Kerry James Marshall, just stripping it down, so to speak, to its bare formal qualities. So that's going to take some time, I think, whatever. So I'm like doing it. So almost each film is this experiment to like get, except for the stuff me and Claudrina are doing. Because formally what me and Claudrina are doing, is making these films about the histories of African Americans at the University of Virginia. So the last film was basically the black students picked up Sly and the Family Stone, and I forgot. Do you know, Dana? You know what year that was? It's like 73 or 4, something like that. And then Sly Stone was upset because it was cold and they crammed into the student car. So we just reenacted that, whatever. But those films need an audience. So we need to so I need to formally put something there. So like black alumni or something that can something to trigger that. But the other stuff I make, it's like an abstract painting. It doesn't need an audience. I'm trying to make it so it's self-referential. Like it has its own kind of formal stand into itself. So I'm just doing that kind of, but I'm trying to make shit happy. I don't know. I'm just trying to there's like some ill shit going on, but you got to make it handsome, So because I remember years ago when I was young, and then when I was young, the quote streets in that film, I remember I was in undergraduate school. I was making handmade paper, printmaking, sculptural shit. Like blood, cum, when you're young, you're making that art, paint and all that kind of shit like that. It's all sloppy and shit, So my parents came, it was like, oh, that's nice, that kind of thing. And I was like, wait. And then, so I figured out a good way to kind of bridge, like kind of art world and like North Side Mansfield, Ohio, was basically craft. So if things look good enough, well then it'll be an avenue for everybody to get into it. So craft is a big, and even my sculptural. The best thing I ever made in my life was my mom's coffee table. It's not even close, like film or photo or sculpture, but it's my mom's coffee table. So the whole idea of like what craft can open up. I like sloppy shit. Don't get me wrong. I like to do more, but I'm trying to but I understand the form of that and then what it introduces, and then who approaches that piece, whatever, so to speak. Yeah. So.
I love that. How much time for questions do we have?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anybody Philadelphia inquisitive? I always like these kind of Philadelphia questions. Remember, Meg, we're up here and there was those brothers in the back were like screaming. I know, yeah, that was so fun because you didn't know what was going to happen. All right, this is man right here. Yeah.
I'd be curious if you just talk a little bit about. These pieces are all fairly short, but these pieces are all fairly short. But I know you've made an 8-hour film. You've made films of other two 8-hour films.
16 hours.
And films of other lengths. How you kind of relate to the duration of the piece on the whole, and where that kind of emerges from. Intuitively or decisively?
I think it depends on the subject matter. It depends on what kind of form I was trying to do. I think the length depends on that, I think, so to speak. I'm trying to think of a longer. Yeah, the 8-hour film is basically, I just wanted to make a full day of work, so it needed that parameter, so to speak. And so I guess it depends. I never go into things saying, like, this is going to be a feature, this is going to be a short. It just, I kind of know what it's going to be before I make it, but it doesn't. I made some scripted films that were supposed to be features, end up being like 19 minutes, and get that shit down. It's just not worth looking at, so to speak, for 70, 80 minutes, so to speak. But I think it just depends on the subject matter, so to speak. I think this when I go to, I know how long it's going to be, so to speak, and did film about what's that? Townsend Park, about the election, yeah. So I knew that was going to be long because I wanted to have people invested in a long period of time in the process. Are these people working for the election, so to speak? So I think it depends on how long I want the subject matter to be on screen, so to speak. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, sir. There's a gentleman here.
Thank you. So I've been looking at some of your interviews and watching.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Okay. You're just rambling.
But also been watching IFO on repeat, and now it's been nice to kind of see these films as well. And I'm thinking about the role of either testimony storytelling or the account. And its relationship to like a kind of witnessing.
Oh yeah, totally.
Just wanted you to unpack a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, because when I was doing ears, nose, and throat, that was all about Caravaggio paintings. And then in a lot of Caravaggio paintings, there's always somebody who witnesses this event happening, so to speak. So that was a kind of formal structure going into that. And IFO upstairs, which is about UFO sightings. And somehow they're Mansfield, Ohio. Like UFOs, like people from other worlds, they just love north side of Mansfield, Ohio, or something like that. I don't know. But then apparently the most credible UFO sightings was in IFO. But my uncles and them said that those airmen were like probably because the only reason why they believed them because they lost a lot of fuel because they had to send, and I guess when you're in a helicopter it burns a lot of fuel. But my uncles and them was like, man, they probably picked up hookers in Indianapolis and flew them back because the fuel was gone. He said, because my uncles don't believe nobody, right? So to speak. So then the whole idea of storytelling and the griot, like how we believe these one things, but these black cab drivers see UFOs and nobody believes them, so to speak. So the whole idea of like what story, and then also the oral tradition of these kind of things, so to speak. So then that whole idea of telling kind of storytelling, and then even in ears, nose, and throat, she was the eyewitness when my son was murdered, so to speak, in like 2010, and so there was a trial, and I didn't know her. I know her folk. Everybody in my hometown is related to me somehow or another. And then there was a first trial, and then there was a mistrial. And then, so her testimony put the guy away, but she was so credible. And then, of course, when you have a retrial, the first trial is state's evidence. So if you don't say it word for word, the defense attorney is like grilling her and stuff. But she was so brave to come forward. And, she was like the way she intellectualized the whole thing. And so that whole deal of telling that story and then understanding the relationships within that story too as well. So that's important. And then that's the only one. And then even those guys, the manhole cover, the FE-26, I've written dialogue because those guys were criminals. But they were in another film I did. And I liked them because they were like, I made this one film about the film I sent y'all today. What's it called? Like the Rita Lawson's Boy, yeah. So they were in this film I had, and then they knew each other. I just casted a bunch of people, and they said they were cousins. So I liked them because they was like Laura and Hardy. You cast two opposites, so to speak. And then, but they ended up. I remember calling them. Was like, I want you and your cousin to act like you're stealing these manhole covers. Like, you mean scrapping? I was like, yeah. Oh man, we just did that last night. I was like, oh man. So it became a document because I remember like it played at the Sundance and it was in the documentary category of shorts, and it was like made up, but it became a documentary. No. Because they were actually talking about robbing a cat just when I was interviewing. Remember they said, "Is that a house over there?" And they did, and this guy thought I was involved and shit, so it got kind of shady. But anyway, but I written stuff for them to say. I had these lines, but they were telling these stories about stuff, so I just let it go, so to speak. So I like the kind of storytelling stuff, And even song, like, because every time I meet somebody, I'm always like, oh, can he, tell a story and then so get into the kind of narrative of it, so to speak. But then also I ask them, like, can you sing? Because I may need some audio at the end. I'm just trying to make something to fill and stuff like that. And then so I've always, but even the singing becomes a narration, so to speak, a way of telling the story. But yeah, I think, would that answer your question? Yeah. So that was the whole. I'm always putting a microphone in front of somebody, like my uncles and aunts and them, to tell stories and stuff like that.
Hey.
Hey.
I just want to know, like, what or who gave you permission to like make the films and the art that you make?
What and who gave me permission?
What or who, like in your life, like what made you make the things that you do, and what gave you the confidence to do what you're doing now?
Yeah, that's good. I guess I just wanted to. I don't know. I guess I wanted to have a voice, I guess, so to speak. So I'm real shy. People don't know that. I told you guys. They look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm, because I always had this speech impediment when I was young, so to speak. And so now I think, and then like the ones that started getting good at art and stuff, but then it becomes another way of speaking and talking and communicating, so to speak. But now, but I do, I'm like, there's as black folks, you can't show up, right? I mean, so I have to show up with me, my family, immediate family, my far family. Like, you know, I mean, you can't just act a fool. I mean, you have an option. You can, but you can't actually. And I remember, and then so I like have that kind of, and then also my hometown of Mansfield. Nothing comes out of Mansfield, so people are really looking. I mean, people like, you know, they think about, you know, I don't know. I just want to represent, I guess, so to speak. But I do remember this story. You know, but I do like. I do have an option of acting a fool, you know, but I could just see my aunt just killing me, right? And I remember one time we were at a family reunion, I think in Atlanta somewhere, and then, you know, it's like one of those buffet breakfast things and stuff. And my aunt, she comes out to me out of the blue and says two things. She said, "Don't make us look bad, and don't marry any Japanese women." And I don't know where the latter came from. I have no idea where that came from. But I like Juanita. She's funny, though. But it was like, okay. You know, can't promise on the second, but I can promise on the. I don't know what kind of thing. But it was just like crazy. But then also, but it is that kind of burden, you know, like, you know, what can you, you know, what, you know, like. But I don't think about, you know, people call it, respectability politics. Well, yeah, black. I mean, I usually like either high art or like ignorant. I don't go in the middle. Some of that are because there's no form in the middle. I mean, I like Young Thug. I don't know, some like is super like nice and smooth. Something that's super simple, you know. And then like Kerry James Marshall. You know, just like nothing, no black, you know, nothing in the middle, you know. Because because you either go the full clip or not at all. And then somehow or another, the middle is like not the full clip for me, so to speak. So I get bored of respectability politics, which is fine. People can do that, you know, and that's fine. It makes a nice object, whatever like that. But I just can't get down like that. Yeah. But that's a good question. I hope I answered it. Did I? Did I? Kind of. Just getting crazy.
Hi.
Yeah.
I am the mother of the strange child who watches gift porn, and I'm here to clear his name.
Gift porn. See, I want to see this gift porn. Somebody's got to send me some links.
I think it's like similar to ASMR. People like to like hear the sounds and watch the.
What's that?
It's like
new shit.
Oh my gosh. Google it, but don't. ASMR is like the stimulation of hearing people chew. It does something to your. It just.
I'll send you some
YouTube
links.
it and like set a time limit because you will fall down a hole, I promise. But so I'm here to clear his name, but I'm also here to ask you if you could dream up, like if you were well resourced, like you said,
totally. Yeah.
You know, what's like a dream project you would make if you had if resources like weren't a thing?
Well, I written this film years ago. My uncles and my dad drove school buses when they were 13 and 14. Because during segregation in Mississippi, everybody worked, you know. And then so I wanted to make a film. And then I've written a film about teenage school bus drivers, you know, in Columbus, Mississippi in 1959, which is halfway between Brown. It's like 5 years after Brown and 5 years before the Civil Rights Act, so to speak. And I had everything, I have everything in place except for the resources, whatever. But the pressure is that, you know, there's relatives that are dying that want to see that, who are telling the story, but I just don't have, I need like serious cash for that. But that's the only thing. I mean, other than that, people want me to pitch shows and shit, and I just like, I can't think of it. I just want to make long, slow ass shit. You know, just the long, yeah, I don't know. I like black slow. I just like it, just like this shit just happening and not happening. And then a little bit of happening. but no more happening, you know. I just like that. But yeah, that's the only kind of, but that's a good question. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's the only dream.
Thank you so much. This is a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.